Her father said no cattleman would marry a preacher's daughter. One already had the ring. The ring had belonged to his mother. It was a thin gold band with a chip of garnet set in a plain bezel. The garnet dark red and small and unimpressive by any standard except the standard of sentiment. And the standard of sentiment was the only standard that mattered to Lyle Teague, who had carried the ring in the watch pocket of his vest for 4 months, the carrying a preparation, the preparation for a question he had not yet asked, because the asking required permission, and the permission had not been granted, and the not granting was the obstacle being the Reverend Josiah Stace, who was Calista's father, who had made his position clear. His position was clear, and it was this: no cattleman would marry his daughter. The no cattleman was a conviction, the conviction rooted in theology and class, and the particular snobbery of a circuit preacher who believed that raising cattle was an occupation unsuited to the husband of a woman, educated in Latin and Greek and music, and the moral philosophy of the Reformed Church. And the unsuitability was Lyle Teague specifically, because Lyle Teague was the cattleman in question, the cattleman who ran 1,200 head on the Cimarron grass south of Hartfield, Indian Territory, and who had the ring, and who had the question, and who did not have the permission. Calista Stace was 25 years old. She was tall and serious, and capable of reading Virgil in the original, and playing hymns on a pump organ, and arguing points of doctrine with her father at the dinner table, the arguing a habit she had developed at 14, and refined at 20, and perfected at 25, the perfecting the evidence of a mind that did not accept assertions without examination. And the examination was the quality Lyle admired, because examination is the intellectual version of what a cattleman does when he checks his fences. You walk the line, you look for gaps, you repair what needs repairing, and Calista walked the lines of every idea she encountered and repaired the ones that were broken. She did not agree with her father about Lyle. The not agreeing was private. She kept it private because privacy was the strategy of a woman who understood that direct confrontation with Josiah Stace produced not concession, but entrenchment, the entrenchment of a man whose occupation was moral authority, and whose moral authority could not survive the admission that he was wrong, because being wrong is the one thing a preacher cannot be, and the cannot be was the rigidity, and rigidity was the wall. Lyle and Calista had met at a barn raising in March. They had met the way people meet at barn raisings, in the serving line, where Calista ladled soup and Lyle held out a bowl, and the bowl was held out with one hand, and the other hand was holding his hat, because his mother had taught him that a man removes his hat in the presence of a woman he respects. And the removing was the first thing Calista noticed, the first thing because it was unexpected. Cattlemen did not remove their hats in serving lines. Cattlemen took their soup and ate it and went back to work, and the not going back was the second thing Calista noticed, because Lyle stood at the end of the table with his soup cooling and his hat in his hand, and his eyes on her, and the eyes on her was the beginning. They talked. The talking happened at the edge of the barn raising, where the noise was less and the privacy was more, and the talking was about things that people talk about when they are discovering each other. The surface things first, the name and the occupation and the where are you from, and then the deeper things, the what do you read and the what do you think about, and the who are you when no one is watching, and the who are you when no one is watching was the question that opened everything, because the answer to that question is the real person, and the real person was what both of them were looking for. When no one is watching, I read, Calista said. I read everything. I read the Bible, and I read Virgil, and I read the newspapers that arrived 2 weeks late from Kansas City, and the 2 weeks late is the delay that makes the news feel historical rather than current. And historical is the perspective I prefer, because historical means you can see the shape of things, and the shape of things is what interests me, not the events but the pattern. When no one is watching, I sit on the porch and listen to the cattle, Lyle said. The cattle make sounds at night that are not the sounds they make during the day. The night sounds are quieter, deeper, the sounds of animals that are settled and safe. And the settled and safe is the sound I like best, because the sound means I have done my job, and my job is to keep them settled and safe, and the keeping is the purpose. Calista looked at Lyle. She looked at him with the examination she applied to everything, the examination that was the fence walking, the walking that checks for gaps, and she did not find gaps. She found a man who listened to cattle at night and who removed his hat in serving lines, and who described his work in terms of purpose rather than profit. And the purpose, rather than profit, was the quality that aligned with everything her education had taught her to value, which was that work is meaningful when the work serves something larger than the worker. And Lyle's work served the cattle and the land and the cycle of grass and rain and sun that sustains both. They met again. They met at the mercantile and at the post office and at the church where Josiah preached on Sundays. The meetings not accidental, but not arranged. They were the meetings that happen when two people are drawn together by a force that does not require planning, because the force is its own plan. And the plan was proximity, and proximity was the thing they sought, and seeking is the beginning of courtship. One afternoon in June, Lyle brought her a book. The book was a volume of Horace that he had ordered from a bookseller in St. Louis, the ordering an act that had required writing a letter and waiting 6 weeks and paying $1.75, which was a day's wages, and the day's wages was the measure of the gesture. Though Lyle would not have called it a gesture, Lyle would have called it a purchase, the purchase of a thing that the person he cared about would value, and the valuing was the point. Calista held the book. She held it the way a person holds something they did not expect, which is carefully, as though the unexpected thing might dissolve if handled roughly. She opened it. She read the first line of the first ode aloud, in Latin, the Latin flowing from her mouth with the ease of a language that lives in the mind rather than on the page. And Lyle listened, understanding nothing of the words and everything of the voice, because the voice was the woman, and the woman was the reading, and the reading was joy, and joy is a universal language that requires no translation. "You bought this for me," Calista said. "I bought it because you told me you had read your copy until the binding cracked. A cracked binding is a sadness. A new binding is the repair of the sadness. I repair things. It is what I do with fences and gates and water troughs, and the repairing extends to books and to people, and to anything that is broken, and that can be made whole. You are not what my father thinks you are. I am exactly what your father thinks I am. I am a cattleman. The difference is that your father believes cattleman is the end of the description, and it is not. It is the beginning, and the rest of the description is the person inside the cattleman, and the person is the part your father has not examined." Josiah noticed. Josiah noticed because preachers notice. Noticing is the professional skill of a man whose occupation requires the reading of souls. And Josiah read his daughter's soul and saw Lyle Teague written in it. And the seeing was the alarm that produced the declaration, no cattleman would marry his daughter. "He is a cattleman," Josiah said, the saying happening at the dinner table. The dinner table, the arena where all important Stace conversations occurred. A cattleman is a man who lives in dirt and smells of animals, and whose highest aspiration is the price of beef. And the price of beef is not an aspiration suitable for the husband of my daughter. "He removes his hat," Calista said. "The removal of a hat does not qualify a man for marriage. The removal of a hat indicates respect. Respect indicates character. Character is the qualification for marriage, not occupation. You married Mother, and Mother was a seamstress, and seamstress is not a more elevated occupation than cattleman, and the not more elevated did not prevent the marriage. Your mother was a woman of faith. Lyle Teague is a man of faith. He attends your church. He sits in the third pew. He puts money in the plate. He bows his head during prayer. The attending and the sitting and the putting and the bowing are the evidence of faith. And if the evidence is insufficient, then the insufficiency is in your reading of the evidence, not in the evidence itself." Josiah did not respond. The not responding was the wall that rigidity builds when argument fails, the wall that says, "I will not discuss this further, because further discussion threatens my position, and my position is the hill I have chosen, and hills that are chosen cannot be abandoned without the admission of error, and error is the thing I cannot admit." That night, Calista's mother, Agnes, came to her room. Agnes was a woman who had learned the art of silence. the silence that is not agreement, but patience. The patience of a woman married to a man who is often wrong and who cannot be told he is wrong, and who must therefore be allowed to discover his wrongness in his own time. And the discovery requires patience. And patience is the art Agnes had mastered. "Your father loves you," Agnes said. "I know he loves me. The knowing does not make him right. He is afraid. He is afraid that a cattleman will take you away from him, not physically, but intellectually. That the cattle will replace the Latin, that the grass will replace the books, that the Cimarron will replace the church. His fear is the wall. The wall is not cruelty. The wall is protection, and protection built from fear is the most common kind of wall, and the most common kind is also the most fragile, because fear dissolves when the thing you fear does not happen, and the not happening takes time, and time is the thing your father needs. And if he does not come around, then you will make the decision that is yours to make, and your father will live with the decision, because living with is what parents do. They live with the choices their children make, even the choices they would not have made, and the living with is the love, the difficult love, that bends without breaking. Lyle came to the parsonage. He came in his good clothes, the clothes that were not work clothes but were not fancy clothes, the clothes that occupied the territory between labor and pretension, which is the territory of a man who respects himself without inflating himself. And he asked to speak with Josiah, and the asking was the formality that Lyle's mother had taught him, because his mother had believed that formality is the scaffolding of respect, and respect is the foundation of everything. "I would like to ask for your daughter's hand," Lyle said. "No," Josiah said. The no was immediate, the way a wall is immediate. You walk into it, and the walking stops, and the stopping is the no, and the no was the wall. "May I ask why?" "You are a cattleman. My daughter is educated. The education and the cattle are not compatible. The education and the cattle are both work. The education is the work of the mind, and the cattle are the work of the hands, and the mind and the hands are both required for a life, and a life that has both is richer than a life that has one, and the richness is the compatibility, and the compatibility is the reason I am asking. The answer is no." Lyle left. He left with the ring in his watch pocket and the question unasked. Not unasked of Josiah, but unasked of Calista, because the question belonged to Calista, not to her father, and the belonging was the truth that Josiah could not see, because Josiah's vision was obscured by the wall he had built. And walls obscure the view the way clouds obscure the sun. They do not eliminate the sun. They merely prevent you from seeing it. Calista found Lyle at the fence line south of town. She found him because she went looking, and the going looking was the decision that was hers to make, and that she made the way she made all decisions, by examining the question, walking the fence, checking for gaps, and finding none. "My father said no," Calista said. "Your father said no. My father is wrong. My father is wrong because my father believes that the measure of a man is his occupation, and the measure of a man is not his occupation. The measure of a man is the way he treats the things in his care, and you treat the things in your care with tenderness and attention, and the quiet commitment that does not announce itself, because it does not need to announce itself, and the not needing is the proof, and the proof is sufficient." Lyle reached into his watch pocket. He took out the ring, the thin gold band with the chip of Garnet, his mother's ring, the ring he had carried for 4 months. He held it out. The holding out was the question that does not need words, because the ring is the word, and the word is will you, and the will you was in his hand. "I already have the ring," Lyle said. "I have had the ring since July. I have been carrying it in my pocket for 4 months, waiting for permission that I do not need, because the permission is yours to give, not your father's, and the yours to give is the truth, and the truth is the ring, and the ring is the question." Calista took the ring. She put it on her finger. The putting on was the answer, and the answer was yes, and the yes was not defiance of her father, but assertion of herself, the assertion that says, "I am the author of my own decisions, and my decisions are examined," and the examination found no gaps. Lyle looked at the ring on her finger. The Garnet caught the late afternoon light of the Indian Territory, the light that is amber and vast and specific to the plains, the light that makes everything look permanent, and the ring looked permanent, and the permanent was the commitment, and the commitment was the thing Lyle had been carrying in his watch pocket along with the ring, not just the gold and the garnet, but the promise of a man who tends 1,200 head with the same attention he would give to one, and the one was Calista, and the attention was everything he had. "What about your father?" Lyle said. "My father will attend the wedding, or he will not attend the wedding. The attending is his choice. The marrying is mine. And I have examined the question, and walked the fence, and found no gaps. And the no gaps is the certainty, and the certainty is the ring on my finger." They married in October, in Josiah's church, because Calista was generous enough to let her father perform the ceremony, and Josiah was proud enough to accept, the accepting the first crack in the wall, and cracks in walls are the beginning of doors, and doors are the things that let people through, and letting through was what Josiah eventually did, not quickly, not easily, but eventually, and eventually is the word that describes how rigid people learn to bend, slowly, with the reluctance of timber that does not want to curve, but that curves, because the force applied is patient and constant, and the force was Calista, and Calista was patient and constant, and Lyle was the reason.